I am Paradox. The universe is immense, so vast that it contains hundreds of billions of galaxies, each filled with billions of stars, many of which have planets orbiting them. Given these staggering numbers, it seems almost inevitable that intelligent life must exist somewhere else in the cosmos. Yet, despite decades of searching, we have found no evidence of extraterrestrial life, no signals, no spacecraft, and no traces of advanced civilizations. This perplexing contradiction is known as the Fermi Paradox, one of the most thought-provoking questions humanity has ever encountered. If the universe is so enormous, where is everyone? The paradox derives its name from physicist Enrico Fermi, who casually posed this question during a lunch conversation in 1950. Mathematically, intelligent life should be out there, with countless stars and planets. Even if life emerges on only a tiny fraction of them, there should still be millions, if not billions, of civilizations within our galaxy alone. If even a few of these civilizations possess the capability for interstellar travel, they should have spread across the galaxy by now. So why have we seen no evidence of them? One possible explanation is that intelligent civilizations are exceedingly rare. While the essential ingredients for life, such as water, carbon, and energy, are abundant, the transition from simple molecules to complex organisms, and eventually to intelligent beings, might be so improbable that it has only occurred on Earth. In this scenario, humanity could be a cosmic anomaly, the outcome of an extraordinarily rare sequence of events. Another possibility is that intelligent civilizations do exist, but they are simply too far away for us to detect. The scale of the universe is nearly incomprehensible. Even at the speed of light, traveling across our galaxy would take over 100,000 years. If alien civilizations are dispersed across such vast distances, their signals, assuming they are transmitting any, may not have reached us yet. Alternatively, we may not yet possess the technology needed to detect them. But what if alien civilizations are relatively close, yet we still do not see them? This leads to another possibility. They might not want to be found. Just as humans exercise caution when revealing their location in the wild, perhaps advanced civilizations deliberately remain silent, either out of fear of attracting hostile attention or due to a philosophical commitment to non-interference. This concept, sometimes referred to as the zoo hypothesis, suggests that Earth could be akin to an exhibit in a cosmic zoo, observed but deliberately left undisturbed. There is also a more unsettling possibility. Civilizations might self-destruct before they have the chance to establish meaningful contact. Advanced technology grants incredible power, but it also introduces enormous risks. From nuclear weapons to environmental collapse to artificial intelligence. If intelligent civilizations tend to destroy themselves shortly after reaching technological maturity, the galaxy could be littered with the remnants of once thriving societies. Another explanation considers the limits of human perception. What if alien life exists, but it is so different from anything we know that we fail to recognize it? We often imagine extraterrestrials as humanoid beings or civilizations communicating through radio signals. However, life elsewhere might be fundamentally unlike anything we have ever conceived, perhaps existing in forms beyond our ability to detect or in dimensions we cannot perceive. It is even possible that they are here, but we simply lack the awareness to notice them. The Fermi Paradox forces us to confront not only the vastness of the universe, but also the fragility of our assumptions. It is tempting to see ourselves as central to the story, yet the universe operates independently of our expectations. Whether intelligent life is rare, distant, hidden, or extinct. Each explanation challenges how we perceive ourselves and our place in the cosmos. Some scholars propose that the paradox has a far simpler resolution. Perhaps we just have not been searching long enough or in the right ways. Modern technology has only allowed us to scan for extraterrestrial signals for a few decades, a mere blink of an eye on cosmic time scales. The search for intelligent life could take centuries before yielding results. From this perspective, the Fermi Paradox is not a mystery, but rather a reminder to be patient. Others adopt an even more radical view, suggesting that the absence of evidence might itself be evidence of something profound. If the universe appears silent and empty, perhaps this silence reveals something fundamental about the nature of life, intelligence, or even the laws of physics. Some theories propose that the very conditions required to sustain life may also render it inherently rare or transient, a fleeting spark in an otherwise indifferent cosmos. The Fermi Paradox does not merely ask where the aliens are. It compels us to consider what their absence means for us. If we truly are alone, the responsibility upon humanity is immense. It would mean that the future of intelligent life in the universe rests entirely on our shoulders. Such a realization challenges us to better care for our planet, to protect and preserve the delicate conditions that make life possible, and to thoughtfully consider how we might one day present ourselves to the cosmos. Ultimately, the Fermi Paradox remains unsolved, and that is precisely what makes it so compelling. It invites us to ponder the grandest questions of existence, from the origins of life to the destiny of civilizations. While the answers remain elusive, the search itself has the power to bring us together, not just as a species, but as beings capable of curiosity, imagination, and hope. Stockdale Paradox. Imagine enduring years of unimaginable suffering and emerging not just intact but stronger. How would you achieve this? This is the essence of the Stockdale Paradox, a concept that highlights the delicate balance between hope and brutal realism. Named after Admiral James Stockdale, a U.S. Navy officer and prisoner of war in Vietnam, this paradox challenges conventional ideas about optimism, resilience, and survival. The Stockdale Paradox originates from Stockdale's harrowing experience as a prisoner during the Vietnam War. For 8 years, he endured relentless torture, isolation, and uncertainty. Many of his fellow prisoners did not survive, falling victim to despair or broken spirits. Yet, Stockdale did survive. When asked how, his response revealed a paradox that has since inspired leaders, psychologists, and thinkers around the world. According to Stockdale, it was the optimists who failed to make it through. They were the ones who constantly reassured themselves, saying, "We'll be out by Christmas." But Christmas would come and go. Then they would say, "We'll be out by Easter," and Easter would pass as well. Then Thanksgiving, then Christmas again. Eventually, they lost hope and died of a broken heart. Stockdale explained that survival wasn't about blind optimism or wishful thinking. It was about holding two seemingly contradictory beliefs at once: the unwavering faith that you will ultimately prevail, and the discipline to confront the harsh realities of your current situation. This is the Stockdale Paradox, the ability to balance hope with realism, to maintain faith in the future while not ignoring the struggles of the present. It is a paradox because it contradicts common notions of positive thinking. Blind optimism can lead to disillusionment when reality fails to meet expectations. However, losing hope entirely can be just as destructive. The key lies in finding the equilibrium between these two extremes. Let's explore why this mindset is so powerful. On one hand, believing in a better future provides the motivation to persevere. Without hope, despair takes over, making hardship feel insurmountable. But on the other hand, ignoring the brutal truth of your circumstances leaves you unprepared for the challenges ahead. By facing reality head on, you build resilience and develop strategies for survival, even if those strategies are painful or difficult. The Stockdale Paradox teaches us that hope and realism are not opposing forces. They complement each other. In Stockdale's case, this paradox was a matter of life and death, but its lessons extend far beyond the battlefield. In business, relationships, and personal growth, the Stockdale Paradox offers a framework for navigating adversity. For instance, when facing a failing project, blind optimism might lead you to ignore warning signs and press forward without a plan, while sheer pessimism might cause you to give up entirely. The Stockdale Paradox presents a third approach, acknowledging the difficulties while maintaining faith in your ability to find a solution. This mindset is especially relevant during times of crisis, whether it's a global pandemic, an economic downturn, or a personal hardship. When the future feels uncertain, it's tempting to either cling to false hope or sink into despair. The Stockdale Paradox reminds us to do neither. Instead, it urges us to confront reality while holding on to the belief that we will overcome it. Psychologists have found that this approach aligns with the concept of adaptive resilience. Resilient individuals do not deny the difficulties they encounter, but they also refuse to let those difficulties define them. They adapt, finding ways to grow and persevere even in the darkest moments. The Stockdale Paradox perfectly encapsulates this balance, proving that resilience is not about avoiding pain. It is about enduring it with purpose. Additionally, the paradox highlights the dangers of false hope. Stockdale's fellow prisoners, who clung to unrealistic expectations, were devastated when those expectations were not met. Their misplaced optimism left them unprepared for the long journey ahead. However, this does not mean we should abandon hope altogether. It simply means that our hope must be grounded in reality. When hope is anchored in a clear-eyed view of the situation, it becomes a source of strength rather than weakness. But the Stockdale Paradox is not merely about surviving hardship. It is about thriving through it. Stockdale did not just endure his years as a prisoner of war. He emerged with a deeper understanding of himself and the world. He found meaning in his suffering, using it as an opportunity to grow and inspire others. This is a crucial aspect of the paradox, the idea that even in our darkest moments, we can find purpose and meaning that propel us forward. So, how can we apply the Stockdale Paradox to our own lives? First, we must practice radical honesty about our circumstances. This means facing the facts, no matter how difficult they may be. Denial may offer temporary comfort, but in the long run, it leaves us vulnerable. Second, we must cultivate a deep and unwavering belief in our ability to overcome challenges. This is not blind optimism. It is a faith rooted in the understanding that we are capable of enduring and adapting. The Stockdale Paradox also calls for emotional flexibility. It does not mean suppressing fear or despair, but allowing those emotions to coexist with hope and determination. This balance requires self-awareness, reflection, and a willingness to embrace discomfort as part of the journey. Ultimately, the Stockdale Paradox is more than just a survival strategy. It is a blueprint for leading a meaningful life. It teaches us that the human spirit is incredibly resilient when we balance hope with realism, faith with action, and optimism with pragmatism. It reminds us that even in the face of immense suffering, we have the power to find strength, purpose, and growth. So the next time you encounter an overwhelming challenge, remember the wisdom of Admiral Stockdale. Hold on to the belief that you will prevail, but never shy away from facing the truth of your circumstances. Because within that delicate balance lies the key not just to surviving, but to thriving. And that is the greatest lesson of the paradox, that hope and honesty together are the ultimate keys to enduring life's greatest tests. Twin paradox. Science fiction often explores the impossible, but there's a paradox that brings it shockingly close to reality. The twin paradox. This thought experiment, derived from Einstein's theory of relativity, challenges our fundamental understanding of time, space, and their intricate relationship. It's not just a captivating puzzle, it offers a glimpse into the mind-bending nature of modern physics, where time can stretch, shrink, and behave in ways that defy our intuition. The twin paradox starts with a simple scenario. Two identical twins. One remains on Earth, living their normal life, while the other embarks on a journey aboard a spacecraft traveling close to the speed of light. After completing their voyage through space and returning to Earth, something astonishing happens. The traveling twin is now younger than the one who stayed behind. But how is this possible? They are twins, after all. They started at the same age, so shouldn't they have experienced time in the same way? The answer lies in Einstein's theory of special relativity, which describes how time and space are interconnected. One of the key principles of relativity is that time is not absolute. Instead, it is relative to the observer's motion. This means that the faster you move, especially at speeds approaching the speed of light, the slower time passes for you compared to someone moving at a lower speed. This phenomenon, known as time dilation, is at the core of the twin paradox. For the twin traveling aboard the spacecraft, time moves more slowly due to their incredible speed. To them, the journey may seem to last only a few years, but for the twin who remains on Earth, where time continues at its usual pace, decades may pass. When the traveling twin returns, they find their sibling significantly older, while they themselves have barely aged. This isn't just a theoretical concept, it's a real, measurable effect that has been observed in experiments involving high-speed particles. At first glance, the paradox seems to introduce a symmetry issue. Since motion is relative, couldn't the traveling twin argue that their sibling was the one in motion while they remained still? Why then, does the traveling twin age more slowly? The resolution lies in the fact that the two twins experience different paths through spacetime. The traveling twin undergoes acceleration and deceleration as they leave Earth, turn around, and return, breaking the symmetry of the situation. In contrast, the twin on Earth remains in a single inertial frame of reference, experiencing no such changes in motion. The twin paradox isn't just an intellectual exercise. It has practical implications. Time dilation is a measurable effect, and one real-world example can be found in GPS satellites orbiting Earth. These satellites experience time dilation due to their high speeds and the weaker gravity at their altitude. To ensure GPS systems function accurately, scientists must account for this effect by adjusting the satellite clocks so they remain synchronized with those on Earth. Without these corrections, GPS navigation would quickly become unreliable. This paradox also challenges our everyday assumptions about time. We tend to think of time as a constant, ticking away at the same rate for everyone, everywhere. However, the twin paradox reveals that time is far more flexible than we imagine. It can stretch and contract depending on an individual's speed and location in the universe. This isn't just an abstract concept. It is a reality confirmed by countless experiments and observations. The implications of the twin paradox go beyond physics, delving into profound philosophical questions about time and existence. What does it mean for two individuals to experience time differently? How does relativity reshape our understanding of aging, identity, and memory? And if time itself can behave in such an unusual way, what other surprises might the universe have in store? One of the most intriguing aspects of the twin paradox is how it bridges the gap between science fiction and scientific reality. Concepts such as time travel, interstellar exploration, and life at near light speeds often seem fantastical. But this paradox demonstrates that these ideas are grounded in fundamental physical laws. The question is not whether time dilation is real. It is how we might one day harness it to explore the cosmos. Yet, the paradox also serves as a humbling reminder of the limits of human intuition. Our brains have evolved to understand a world where speeds are slow, distances are short, and time appears constant. The twin paradox forces us to step beyond these familiar experiences and consider a universe that operates on an entirely different scale. It is a testament to human curiosity and imagination, allowing us to glimpse a reality far beyond our senses. So, what does the twin paradox teach us? It is more than just an intriguing quirk of physics. It offers a profound insight into the nature of time and space. It challenges us to rethink what we believe about reality, to question our assumptions, and to embrace the strange and wondrous truths of the universe. And perhaps most importantly, it reminds us that even the most familiar concepts, like time, still hold mysteries waiting to be discovered. The tolerance paradox. Intolerance. This is the essence of the tolerance paradox, a profound and troubling dilemma first introduced by philosopher Karl Popper. It challenges the very foundation of what it means to live in an open, free society. At its core lies a simple yet uncomfortable question. How far should we go in accepting opposing viewpoints, especially when those viewpoints threaten the very fabric of tolerance itself? Imagine a society built on the principle of tolerance, one where people are free to express their beliefs, live as they choose, and engage in open dialogue. But then, an intolerant ideology begins to emerge, one that rejects the values of tolerance and actively works to suppress the freedoms of others. What should the tolerant society do? If it tolerates intolerance, it risks being overrun by those who reject tolerance altogether. But if it refuses to tolerate the intolerant, doesn't it abandon its own principle of tolerance? This is the heart of the paradox. Tolerance is often seen as an absolute good, but the tolerance paradox reveals its limitations. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that tolerance, when taken to an extreme, can become self-destructive. Popper introduced this idea in his 1945 book, The Open Society and Its Enemies. He argued that unlimited tolerance ultimately leads to the erosion of tolerance itself. If a society allows intolerant ideologies to take root and spread unchecked, those ideologies can eventually undermine the very freedoms that made the society tolerant in the first place. Popper's solution was clear but controversial. A tolerant society must reserve the right to be intolerant toward intolerance. On the surface, this might seem contradictory. How can a society committed to tolerance justify being intolerant? But Popper's argument is not about suppressing disagreement or silencing opposing viewpoints. It is about drawing a line when those viewpoints actively threaten the rights and safety of others. The goal is not to eliminate conflict or disagreement, but to protect the very conditions that make a tolerant society possible. The tolerance paradox is not just a philosophical puzzle, it has real world implications. Consider freedom of speech, one of the cornerstones of a tolerant society. Should this freedom extend to those who use it to spread hate speech, incite violence, or advocate for the suppression of others' freedoms? Some argue that even the most offensive ideas should be allowed in the name of free expression, trusting that open debate will expose and discredit harmful views. Others contend that allowing such speech creates an environment where intolerance thrives, ultimately putting vulnerable groups at risk. History provides many examples where the tolerance paradox has played out in dramatic ways. In the early 20th century, many democratic nations tolerated the rise of authoritarian movements, believing they could coexist with democratic values. But in cases like Nazi Germany, that tolerance allowed intolerant ideologies to gain power and dismantle democracy from within. These historical lessons demonstrate that unchecked tolerance can have devastating consequences. But where should we draw the line? This is where the tolerance paradox becomes particularly complex. Not all forms of intolerance are equally dangerous, and not all disagreements threaten the fabric of society. Disagreeing with someone's political views or cultural practices is not the same as advocating for their suppression. The challenge lies in distinguishing between harmful intolerance that must be addressed and healthy conflict that should be encouraged. Critics of Popper's idea often raise concerns about who gets to decide what counts as intolerant. They argue that labeling certain ideas or groups as intolerant can be subjective and prone to misuse. A government or group in power could exploit this principle to silence dissent under the guise of protecting tolerance. This highlights the delicate balance a society must strike, protecting itself while avoiding authoritarianism. The tolerance paradox also raises important questions about human psychology and group dynamics. Intolerance often stems from fear, ignorance, or a perceived threat. Addressing these underlying causes through education, dialogue, and empathy can be more effective than simply suppressing intolerant ideas. However, even these approaches have limits, especially when dealing with ideologies that are fundamentally opposed to dialogue or compromise. In today's polarized world, the tolerance paradox feels more relevant than ever. We see debates over free speech, censorship, and the boundaries of tolerance playing out daily, from social media platforms to political arenas. As we navigate these challenges, the paradox reminds us that tolerance is not just about accepting differences. It is about actively protecting the principles that make coexistence possible. So, what can we learn from the tolerance paradox? First, it teaches us that tolerance has limits, and that those limits are necessary to preserve the values we hold dear. Second, it challenges us to think critically about how we respond to intolerance, whether through open dialogue, legal protections, or, in extreme cases, restrictions. And finally, it reminds us that a tolerant society cannot be a passive one. It requires vigilance, courage, and a willingness to confront difficult questions about freedom, fairness, and justice. The tolerance paradox isn't just a problem to be solved. It is a reflection of the complexities of living in a diverse and open society. It forces us to grapple with the tension between our ideals and the realities of human behavior. And perhaps its greatest lesson is that maintaining a free and open society requires more than just tolerance. It requires the wisdom to know when tolerance itself must have boundaries. Catch-22. You need to escape, but the only way out is to prove that you're insane. However, the very act of trying to escape proves that you're sane enough to stay. This is the Catch-22, a paradox that traps you in a no-win situation where every option seems to cancel itself out. It's a problem of logic, bureaucracy, and human frustration all rolled into one, making it one of the most relatable paradoxes in modern life. The term Catch-22 originates from Joseph Heller's 1961 novel of the same name. In the book, it refers to a military rule. If a soldier wants to be excused from dangerous missions, they must prove they're insane. But here's the twist. If the soldier applies for an exemption, they are showing concern for their own safety, which is a perfectly rational act. That means they're not insane. On the other hand, if they don't apply, they willingly put themselves in harm's way, which might indicate insanity, but also leaves them stuck in the missions. There is no escape. The genius of the Catch-22 is how it captures the absurdity of bureaucratic logic. It's a rule that creates a closed loop, trapping anyone who tries to engage with it. While it originated in Heller's novel, the concept of a Catch-22 is something most of us have encountered in real life. Think about job hunting. Many entry-level positions require years of experience. But how do you gain experience if all the jobs that offer demand prior experience? Or consider applying for credit. You need a credit history to get approved. But you can't build a credit history without first getting approved. These are modern-day Catch-22s. Situations where the system itself seems designed to work against you. What makes the Catch-22 so frustrating is its circular nature. Every option leads you back to where you started. It's not just a matter of bad luck or difficult choices. It's the system itself that creates the impossibility. You are trapped by the logic of the rule, and there is no way to break free without contradicting the rule itself. However, the Catch-22 isn't just about individual frustration. It also highlights larger societal and institutional problems. It reveals how rules and systems, which are supposed to help us, can sometimes become self-defeating. Bureaucracies, in particular, are infamous for creating Catch-22s. Think of a government agency requiring paperwork that is impossible to obtain without their approval, or a university insisting on prerequisites for a course that can only be fulfilled by taking the course itself. The paradox also raises deeper questions about power and control. In a Catch-22, the system holds all the authority. The individual is forced to play by rules that are inherently unfair, often with no one to appeal to. It serves as a stark reminder of how systems can use logic, not to clarify or solve problems, but to maintain authority and keep people trapped. Philosophically, the Catch-22 challenges the way we think about logic and fairness. Logic is supposed to help us make sense of the world, but the Catch-22 reveals how logic can also create traps when it is applied without consideration for real-world consequences. It serves as a warning about what happens when rules take precedence over human needs and common sense. One reason the Catch-22 resonates so deeply is that it is not just a theoretical problem. It's a lived experience for many people. From navigating complex bureaucracies to dealing with paradoxical social norms, the Catch-22 reflects the absurdities we face every day. This is why the term has become a cultural touchstone, used to describe everything from workplace dilemmas to legal loopholes. But what can we do when confronted with the Catch-22? The first step is recognizing the paradox for what it is. Sometimes, just understanding that you're dealing with a self-defeating system can help you navigate it more effectively. You might not be able to break the loop, but you can find ways to work around it, whether that means seeking alternative paths, challenging the rules, or finding someone who understands the system better and can help. The Catch-22 also reminds us of the importance of questioning the systems we live in. Why do these paradoxes exist? Are they the result of poor design, or do they serve a purpose? In many cases, Catch-22s persist because they maintain the status quo, making it harder for people to challenge authority or break free from rigid structures. By identifying these paradoxes and drawing attention to them, we can push for changes that make systems fairer and more humane. Ultimately, the Catch-22 is more than just a frustrating puzzle. It's a reflection of the human condition. It captures the tension between individual agency and systemic control, between logic and absurdity. While it may not always have a clear solution, it teaches us to think critically about the rules we follow and the systems we navigate. The next time you find yourself stuck in a Catch-22, remember that you're not alone. This paradox has been baffling and frustrating people for decades, and likely always will. But by understanding it, we can start to see the hidden dynamics at play and maybe, just maybe, find a way to turn this system on its head.